get started. Appreciate you guys coming. Since it's our first Monday, just kind of review what we'll do on Mondays. I'll go back through and give a recap of the game since we've watched the film and evaluated as a staff. Talk about our players of the week from last week, and then just make a few comments about our opponent and then open it up for questions. Just quickly, the game itself from last Saturday against Texas State. Obviously, it's still good to be 1-0 and get that first victory. Several good things that we took out of the game. Offensively and defensively, we want to be able to run the ball and stop the run. 218 yards rushing, held them to 69 yards rushing, was outstanding. Third down, major emphasis on third down. We were 8 of 13, and they were 1 of 13 on third down. We were able to get 3 sacks, 3 takeaways. We scored on defense. Special teams wise, we were 5 of 5 with our PATs. We had better net punt. We blocked the field goal, so there were a lot of goods. Some of the bads from the game, obvious ones, the interceptions. We had a penalty, took a touchdown off the board. We had some mental errors on defense, fumbled a punt, and a couple of foolish penalties on special teams that either extended drives or gave them other opportunities. Players of the game from Saturday offensively, Raheem Blackshear, a couple touchdowns, did a really good job. I think 22 touches he had in the game, was all over the field. Defensively, Elam Lamore was our defensive player of the game. Elam, again, I think had an outstanding game. He played quite a bit last year, but this is a game that he started and played the majority of the snaps, and really showed that we hope he can be a great player for us. Special teams, Larry Stevens did a great job of covering kicks, punts, and kickoffs for our special teams. After our first game, really feel like we have a really good idea of where we're at as a football team. There's some things that came up, some issues that came up that we think we'll be able to get fixed fairly quickly. We understand our strengths and weaknesses a lot more after we played a game. We had a lot of young players play. We have a pretty good idea of what they can and can't do and what we need to do to try to help them get better and improve. Just looking ahead here to next week, obviously we're going to go play a very, very talented Ohio State football team. They jumped out of the gates quick last week against Oregon State and beat them pretty soundly. They've got speed at the skill positions. They've got size up front on both sides of the ball. They've got a very good quarterback. The team is built exactly like you want to build a team. 4 years in a row, Rutgers and Ohio State have played in 4 years and hasn't been much of a game. So it's our job to go over there and try to play the best that we can play and play a lot better than what we've played, especially here in the last couple of years. We're going to have to go over and protect the football, protect the quarterback, and be able to move the ball offensively. Defensively, we're going to have to stop the run. We're going to have to get some takeaways and not beat ourselves. And those are some things that we've done the last couple of years on both sides of the ball in this game against this opponent. So tremendous challenge, tremendous opportunity. One that we're definitely looking forward to. It's a measuring stick to, again, measure improvement and go out and just play as fast and as violent and as consistent as we can. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up for questions.
Do you have any updates on Bless on Austin?
No updates. Like I've said before, policy will be on injuries. I'm not going to talk about them unless it's a long-term deal, like T1 Masons is a long-term deal. Guys that are potentially week to week, day to day, won't make any comments unless something's going to put them out for a while.
Chris, regarding Urban, have you talked to him throughout the entire process? And then knowing that he's coaching during the week but not on game day, how much of an influence do you think he's going to have on a game plan and what the Ohio State team that you're going to see on Saturday?
Just out of respect for people involved in that whole situation, I'm going to avoid any comments about Coach Meyer and the situation and not being there, I got a lot of opinions and thoughts and people I care about involved in the whole deal, and I'm going to avoid any questions about that.
What about his influence on the game? Because we kind of saw it with Kyle back in 2015, where he was suspended, but then he schemed and game planned and was here during the week. What type of impact do you think that he'll have just on game planning the game?
I've never been in that situation before, so I can't comment on what that's even like, to be honest with you, from a staff standpoint. He's the head coach. He's very involved in a lot of aspects of the program, so I would assume he'll be heavily involved in game planning. But again, I'm not there. Never been in that situation before, so it's hard for me to make any comments about it.
Does it change anything in terms of maybe in-game kind of the
analytics or such of what the tendencies that might be called to fourth downs or going for it and stuff like that?
Yeah, guys, I'm going to refrain from making any comments about Ohio State. You know, if you want to talk about our team, we can talk about our team. If you want to talk about what we see from their players, but in terms of making comments about Coach Meyer and him being there or not there, I'm not going to do that. And hopefully you guys respect that.
Chris, will you look at film from last year's game much, or are you just focused on last week's film?
No, both. We will look back. We always look back at common opponents from last year and look at things that we did well, things we didn't do well. How did they attack us? We'll look at those things. But there are a lot of new players on the field for both sides, but especially for them, there are a lot of new players. So we'll look at a lot of game one here, but we'll go back and look at a lot of games from last year, including ours.
What is different with the new players this year for Ohio State? What do you see from that first game?
Well, they're talented. You know, that's the number one thing that stands out. Again, they've got size, they've got speed, they play really hard, they're physical. You know, that's what stands out. When you recruit really well, you develop really well, and you go to bowl games, you get those extra practices. When one guy leaves and another guy steps in, there's really, you know, not a lot of drop off. And that's been the case at Ohio State for a number of years, and that's the case, you know, still, you know, right now today based on what I've seen from last Saturday's game.
John McNulty and Greg Schiano worked together, obviously, for a lot of years here and then over in Tampa. I'm wondering, that relationship, is that an advantage either way? John knowing Greg's defense and Greg knowing John's offense, is that an advantage either way?
Well, I would say no, because it's a completely different situation. You know, what Greg does defensively is what he does because of the players that he has today, not what he would have had, you know, whether it be in Tampa or here at Rutgers. What John does offensively is based on the players that we have here at Rutgers today and not what would have been here years ago or what they had in Tampa or what he's had at other NFL stops. So, no, I don't think that that is necessarily an advantage. It's still about the players that they have, that we have, that can go out and execute calls. You structure what you're going to do offensively and defensively around the now. There are philosophical things that people believe in that you're going to, you know, carry with you wherever you go, but there are certain things X and O wise you'd be able to do one year in one place that you can't do at another. So I don't look at it that way.
Chris, when you look at the offense, other than the obvious of scoring enough points and winning the game and time possession and all that, is this kind of how you envisioned the offense, what you wanted for this offense when you got here? And now it seems like you have the pieces, you have the coordinator to finally do it.
You know, offensively, I look at it as we got to score points. You know, and it doesn't really matter you know, what you do offensively, schematically. It has to fit your players. They've got to be able to execute it. Your staff, especially your coordinator's got to be completely convicted in what you're doing. He needs to know it inside out and be able to adjust and adapt it based on the situation, and that's really what I look at. What we did Saturday, you know, from a production standpoint, if we could do that every Saturday, score 35 points and be balanced with over 200 yards rushing and 200 yards passing, time of possession, eliminate the takeaways or turnovers, I should say, then yeah, that's a really good offensive game. If we could do that consistently, that'd be great. Schematically, it doesn't really matter. Score points, take care of the football, be able to move the ball, be balanced. Those are the things that we want to do.
Chris, you had an opportunity to play a lot of young guys. Can you talk about now them going on the road special teams and some of the special teams players this week that performed for you, the kickers, the punter?
Yeah, you know, playing a home game for a lot of those young players, that was a great first opportunity. Helps them get their feet wet, so to speak, here in front of our home crowd. Going on the road, especially going on the road to Columbus, is a completely different environment, completely different situation. Still going to be a lot of unknowns on how our young players handle that situation. Our older players have been in those environments. They know what to expect. They know what they're getting into. The younger players that haven't played don't. So there's going to be a lot of unknowns still from that standpoint. I do feel like some of the guys that played Saturday really have a lot of confidence in themselves, and that helps when you go into these types of environments, but they really don't know what they're getting into yet. So I'll be able to answer that question better, you know, after the game on Saturday, how they handled it and how they performed. But I know some of them I think are going to be fine.
And special teams?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of players that played for us on special teams. They did some really good things. Special teams, there were really goods and some bads Saturday. The bads were some of the foolish penalties. We had a false start. We ran into the punter. We had a roughing the snapper. Those three things really negated what I would say was a pretty good special teams day. We got some pin-ems on our kickoff coverage team, pin-em on our punt team. We had better net punt than our opponent, which is huge. We blocked the field goal. There were a lot of things to take out of Saturday's game that were positive about special teams. Unfortunately, those three penalties were critical ones, and we've got to get those eliminated. But a lot of young players participated and did an outstanding job on special teams.
How pleased were you with the success you guys had getting pressure on the quarterback with the stunts and the blitzes in the second, third level? I think we had 2 holds, a sack, intentional grounding, a throwaway.
Yeah, I thought we did a pretty good job in game 1 getting after the quarterback. We've done some different things defensively to try to help us. It's been no secret that that's an area that we have to improve on. We talk about takeaways and being able to get more takeaways where we have to get after the quarterback and get them in third and long situations more for that to happen. And we've done some things differently schematically to try to take advantage of our personnel today that would allow us to do that, and I think it showed up more on Saturday. We're more multiple than what we've been, really more multiple than what I've been for quite a while as a defensive coach, which is what we need to be. Now, there's a fine line there, how to be multiple, not have too much, and have a lot of mental errors, because we had some on Saturday, more than I would like. But it did help us put pressure on the quarterback, get sacks, hit the guy, and also, we did get some holding calls because of our ability to beat some guys.
Greg,
Take 2 more questions.
Regarding Greg Brown's $4 million gift, 2-part question. One, the locker rooms, can you talk a little bit about that? Timeline on it, you expect it to get started after the year, and how important is it in the grand scheme of things? And then also Greg's commitment, how important is that in the grand scheme of things to what you're building?
I'll start with just the last part there. Greg and Anna have been unbelievable since I've been here, and they're diehard Rutgers people. They're unbelievable. Their support, unwavering support for not only athletics but just this university. They've given a lot back to this program, the athletic department, the university, and that means a lot. And when a guy like that steps up and continues to step up to support you, shows that he has faith and belief in what we're doing and the direction that we're going. To be able to put that type of money into a locker room, that's a much needed part of our facility master plan. We needed the weight room, we needed the practice fields. We've been pushing to get the locker room and really the training room done. They have to get redone. It helps not only the experience that our current student athletes have, but our ability to recruit the talented players here in this region for the future. It shows commitment from our supporters, shows commitment from our university that football is important, and that we're going to continue to try to be the best at what we're doing. So I can't thank Greg and Anna enough for their contributions in the past and what they just did the other night.
No, I'm sorry. Timeline on it,
Yeah,
started after this
timeline,
season?
there's a lot that goes into a facility renovation. We hope to have the plans all done. We've kind of been working on this for a while, so we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do with the project. There's a lot of things that you've got to take care of with red tape to get the project started. We hope to have that all done here in the fall, and sometime right after the season's over, construction can begin. And it should be all completed by the summer or training camp at least before 2019.
Final question? Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys, thank you. Take care.